Okay. Thanks very much for coming. Really pleased we've got so many people in the room. In fact, we almost have more people than chairs. So it's great to see such a good audience. My name is Bill Byway. As I've been introduced, I think, already, but I am one of the solution consultants in Clarivate. I especially work with 2 or 3 of our solutions. I'm going to talk about one today, Cortellis Competitive Intelligence, which I think follows on very nicely from Neşe's talk about how she uses product intelligence. And it was a good lesson in Turkish for me. Thank you for having your slides in English, so I understood a little bit about what you said. And thank you all for listening to me in English. So you have something to learn about our data. You also have practice of another language. Maybe that's good, maybe that's not so good. Anyway, today I'm going to talk about Cortellis Competitive Intelligence, which is one of our many databases at Cortellis, at Clarivate. This slide just gives you an idea about everything we do, and you'll see lots of different variations of this. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time, except to say that at Clarivate we have a lot of different solutions covering that whole drug research, development and commercialization life cycle, from very early research on the left of the slide for you, all the way through to bringing products to the market, to the commercial aspects. And Neşe has talked about our Cortellis Product Intelligence database and how she uses that. And that's especially used in the generics and manufacturing space. So, I'm going to talk about actually 2 solutions, Cortellis Competitive Intelligence and also our Epidemiology Intelligence. And these solutions give you data that really help, again, with portfolio development, with making decisions about what products to get involved in, to assess markets, to help with that business development process. If we look at Cortellis Competitive Intelligence, as the slide says, it's really there to help you make portfolio decisions. So data to help you understand what is the competition, what is coming through development from other companies. Help you then to differentiate between those products by understanding other products well, understanding what are those other products' strengths, what are those other products' weaknesses, so that you can position against those, which is obviously very critical in any business situation. Generally keeping up to date with the drug research and development pipeline, all the way from really, really early new molecules being discovered through to things that are coming to market, and help you forecast how that pipeline is moving, how things are progressing. Just some big numbers. Everybody, when they talk about data, talks about big numbers. I'm not going to read all of these here. I think the important one is the first number on the slide that talks about we have data now on more than 100,000 drug pipeline products. We started building the data, collecting the data back in 1994, so more than 30 years ago. So over that time, obviously, we've tracked new pharmaceuticals coming through development onto the market. We're now up to 100,000 drug products. And it's used by, as the slide says, more than the top 20 pharmaceutical companies worldwide, but to give you an idea, all the top 20 pharma companies use the database. So a lot of data in there, and sorry, I keep clicking on the wrong button. Let me go forward. The benefit of having this data all in one place is, I think, really, really important. You could go out and research the drug pipeline using Google, using ChatGPT, using all of those free public solutions to help you monitor what is happening. And of course, I'm sure you do that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with doing that, but the advantage of having a database like Cortellis is that it can save you a lot of time because all the information is brought together in one place. And that sounds simple, but it really is quite an important aspect of doing this sort of research work. And being confident that the database is complete as well. Because if you're looking at Google, etc., to try and find data on what is happening, how do you know if you found everything? Maybe you did, maybe you missed something important. Our job at Clarivate is to do that for you, to bring all that data together and to give you confidence that you haven't missed things. So the one source, I think, is a really important aspect to this slide. Hopefully simple to use as well, but bringing everything together, saving you time, giving you confidence is really the purpose. So some examples of what you might then do with Cortellis Competitive Intelligence. Understand what drugs are at what stage of development in the R&D pipeline, depending on what area you're interested in, what therapy area, what indication, what technology area. And that can help you to understand maybe new competitors that are coming into your space that you didn't know about. Basically get that full picture of what is happening in the drug R&D pipeline. And then I talked about differentiating your drug, helping you to understand what is in the positive column, what are the strengths, what are the weaknesses, maybe not so much of your product, but of competitor drugs as well. Looking at sales numbers, Nessie mentioned one of the needs is sales numbers. Not just looking at what have the sales been last year, the year before, but going into the future, making estimates, making forecasts for future drug sales. Again, that's the sort of data that we bring into our Cortellis database to help you with understanding and projecting future product sales. And also making estimates. I think again on your slide, Nessie, one of the things you mentioned was new entrants. New products are coming to market or being researched, hopefully coming to market all the time. Which ones are looking promising, not only in terms of the sales numbers, but which ones look like they're going to be successful in phase 3 clinical trials? Which ones maybe are more likely to fail in clinical trials? We have used artificial intelligence in our data to help make predictions for which drugs have got the most probability of coming to market and which ones have got the most probability of failing. Okay. So we've got these two different databases. Nessie talked about Cortellis Product Intelligence. I'm talking about Cortellis Competitive Intelligence. Two different databases. The biggest difference is which drugs they cover. Competitive intelligence looks at drugs, most of them still in R&D. So maybe in clinical, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Product intelligence really looks at what drugs are already on the market. So a different focus to the two systems. And that means traditionally different types of company use the two different solutions. Competitive intelligence, back when we started the database 30 years ago, we were looking to market that data to the big innovator farmers, to Pfizer, to Amgen, to GlaxoSmithKline, etc. Product intelligence, we mainly promote and is mostly used by companies working in the generic space, either finished dose, generics, or API manufacturers, maybe now biosimilars as well. That's the tradition. But of course, there is overlap between the two databases. So more and more we're finding Innovator companies want to know about generics, they want to understand what is happening, but also companies, maybe if you work mostly in the generic space, in biosimilars, want to know more and more about products earlier in R&D. And so these are some of the questions that Cortellis Competitive Intelligence can help you answer. So, of course, what products are coming through research and development? What is in phase 3? What is in phase 2? Not just completely new molecules, but maybe new formulations, improved formulations. If a product is traditionally an injectable, is somebody looking to try to develop an oral form of that drug? That's going to be pretty important to understand. Drug combinations, rather than just single molecules. Biosimilars are also covered in competitive intelligence. All of those different types of product have to go through a certain amount of development, they have to go through some clinical studies, so we capture those in competitive intelligence. It's not only new molecules, it's also formulations, combinations, biosimilars, etc. And that can help you to understand future risks. Maybe the market today is dominated by one product, but what's coming? Is there a big product in phase 3 that's going to completely change the market? That's important to understand. What opportunities does that mean for marketing new products, for planning in the future, maybe new manufacturing opportunities? And I don't know if any of you work primarily in manufacturing companies, in CDMOs. Are any of you working more in manufacturing? Not so much. Okay. Something I hear a lot from CDMOs especially is that they want to build the relationship with the client very, very early. So it's too late when the product's already in phase 3. The manufacturer's decided. They're looking to make that relationship as early as possible. And then, understanding the sales, the strengths and weaknesses, the competitive positioning of products on the market, but also products getting close to market. Okay. So that's Cortellis Competitive Intelligence very quickly, and I realise I didn't even look at the time that I started. What I thought I would do, since we have the time, is give you a very quick demonstration of what the database looks like. So I'm going to hope the technology will work. Looks like I have an internet connection, so that's a positive sign. Okay. And this is where we keep both fingers crossed and the toes as well. But hopefully, it worked for me before, so I'm... Of course, before I didn't have an audience, but now it is not going to work for me. Okay, if I don't have any luck, we will change the agenda again. I did refresh. Let me stop and refresh one more time. Okay. Something is happening. Yes. Hooray. Okay. A little bit slow, but let's hope. So I'm going to look at Cortellis Competitive Intelligence. Really, two types of thing you might want to do. One is you know about a drug, and you just want to look up that drug, find some data on that drug. So I'm going to take Manjaro. I'm sure there's a lot of interest in this product. I noticed it was on your slide. Yeah. No surprise that this one is very interesting. So That's how easy it is to look at the drug. There's lots and lots of data about the drug. I'm not going to show you everything here. I'm going to show you probably two things that are important. First one, let's take a look at some sales numbers. So if we go to the sales, okay. So what we have here is sales going backwards in time. So maybe starting in, I can't read that, 2016, the drug was not on the market then. So no sales. You can see the first sales began here, 2022, tiny little number, but you can see how quickly the product has grown. So we've got last year's sales, $16 billion worldwide, and it's still growing. So here we have future projections. Up to 2030, we've got 59, close to 60 billion. Am I reading that? $60 billion in sales. That's incredible. But you can see how quickly you can get that sort of data. So we all know Mounjaro is a big product. But if it's a drug you're not very familiar with, is it a big product? Is it a small product? Is it growing? Is it declining in sales? You can see that really quickly. We can also look at a SWOT analysis, and probably this is a little small for you, but what we have are the strengths and weaknesses summarized. So really quickly you can see what are the strengths of Mounjaro, and that can help you to understand whether this product is interesting or not for you. What are its weaknesses, things you might need to know about. Typically, are there safety issues with the drug? How is efficacy? What sort of dose form is the drug? And are there problems or advantages with that? And then down below, if I scroll, what are the opportunities? So, development in new indications, etc. What are the threats? So what are the products that compete with Mounjaro that are threats to that drug? So really quickly, in one page of text, you've got a fantastic summary to help you assess that product. Is it looking promising? Is it not looking so promising? Okay. So looking at one drug is very, very simple. But Mounjaro is not the only drug in obesity, not the only drug in diabetes. So let's look at what else is being developed. And what I can do is say, show me the pipeline. I'm going to look at the indication, I'm going to type in diabetes, and let's take type 2 diabetes. So what is this telling me? Well, there's a number at the top, hopefully it's big enough for you to see. We've got 2,125 drugs in type 2 diabetes. Okay. A lot of drugs. What are the stages of development on the top left? So how many drugs are in clinical development, phase 3, for example? How many drugs are in phase 2? How many drugs are on the market? Lots of drugs. But you can start to see how many possible competitors, how many threats, maybe how many opportunities there are. Okay. And you can go as early as you like. If you want to start all the way back at discovery stage programs, you can see that. Who are the companies developing those drugs? Eli Lilly, Novo Nordisk, no surprise. If you come down, how many of those drugs are small molecules? How many are biologics? Let's do a couple of things really quickly just to show you how many of those are in phase 3 then. If I click, I have 73 phase 3 drugs. And I want to know how many biosimilars are in that list. There we go. It says 70. So really quickly I can see how many biosimilars are being developed in diabetes, currently in phase 3 development. So getting close to market. If I want to see the list, I can click here, and I have a list of biosimilars, quite a few for semaglutide, already in development. We can see the companies developing those. We can understand what is the competition if we're interested in considering developing a biosimilar for diabetes, or if we're interested in finding a company to partner. So here we've got, for example, several Chinese companies. Maybe there's an opportunity to partner, to work with those Chinese companies to bring those products into Turkey. Okay. So that's very quickly what Cortellis Competitive Intelligence can help you do. Okay. Last thing I wanted to talk about is, oops, not that, is, if I come back to my slides, epidemiology. And so I'll very quickly go back to the slides and just talk about our epidemiology intelligence data. Okay, so we talked about some of the things you can do using Cortellis Competitive Intelligence. You can look at sales numbers. How many patients are out there is another way to look at the size of the market. Not just how much do drugs already sell, but how many patients, which countries, which parts of the world are those potential patients in. And that's what our epidemiology data is really designed to help you do. Understand what is the opportunity for a drug, and maybe, how do different indications compare? Are there more diabetes patients or more obesity patients? Which countries are those patients located in? Useful to understand the market. Also, if you need to do clinical development, where can you find patients for clinical studies? Helps you to really plan your launch strategy for a product. And we have two types of data in our epidemiology solution. We cover something like 1,200 diseases at a simple level, showing you the incidence and prevalence numbers for any publication. So if you want to know for something like diabetes, what are the prevalence numbers, you can do that, but you can also look for rare diseases. So if you're involved in more unusual diseases where there's less data, you can also look up those. And then for the more common diseases, we can go much more detailed. So we have in-depth epidemiology data, forecasts, again, to look at how those numbers are growing in the future or declining. There we cover slightly fewer countries, around 45 countries. We do cover Turkey. And we cover about 200 indications. So using that, you can help to predict, which markets are going to be the most attractive. So another piece of data that can help you to build your strategy, to help you work and optimize your portfolio by understanding the patient numbers around the world. Okay, so that's pretty much what I wanted to cover. How are we doing on timing? Do we?
I don't know if you have another show.
That's pretty much what I wanted to go through. I don't know if we have time for questions.
Definitely, we have time for questions. So, herhangi bir sorunuz varsa lütfen Bill buradayken uzmanımız kendisine sorabilirsiniz. Product Intelligence ya da Epidemiology sormak çıkmadı. Herhangi bir sorunuz varsa.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you very much. And if you do have questions, you want to come and have a look at the data, then you can come and talk to me in the break. I can show you the data. We can also show you the product intelligence solution that Neşe talked about. Okay, thank you.